Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone, to this online session in which we're going to be talking about the international markets for clean hydrogen projects. As you know, right now around the world, there has been many announcements from many different governments about the intention to use hydrogen as a decarbonizing vector and how to create a market in each respective geography about so that we can actually decarbonize whether it's the industry, whether it's um, the different industries that can be actually decarbonized by hydrogen. However, it is a little bit unclear exactly which are these markets that are requesting these hydrogen products right now, which are already like possible commercial demanders or possible users of this hydrogen. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the international markets, where they come from, where they're demanding, and what kind of changes are we expecting in the next few years and opportunities. So I have with me three super speakers today, three top speakers that I hope that you can learn a lot from. And I'd like to ask them to please introduce themselves shortly so that we can get to know them. Markus, please, if you shortly introduce yourself so people in the audience can get to know you a bit better.
Yes. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me. My name is Markus Exenberger. I'm the co-founder and executive director of an instrument called H2 Global. It is now used by a few governments. I will give you more insights about that later. Thank you very much.
Indeed, we've all heard about H2 Global, and I think for this topic, it's very, very important to hear from you. Next, I'd like to ask Antonio to please introduce yourself so that people can get to know you a bit better.
Hello, everyone. My name is Antonio Parisi. I'm a manager with Hinicio, and today we'll be discussing a little bit about the certification landscape and looking at some of the things that are coming out of Japan and Korea as well. Thanks.
So Japan, Korea are very important markets, and certification is really important because otherwise, if we don't get it all understanding what this clean hydrogen is really hard to trade and move it across. So thank you very much, Antonio. Next, Gordon, please, if you could introduce yourself. Sorry, just make sure you take the microphone off for us.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
My name is Gordon Baier, CEO of GoSolar Energy, and we are an early stage developer for large solar and in combining with green hydrogen production and ammonia conversion. We have identified various projects across the US for international shipping.
Fantastic. So thank you very much to the three of you. So just to give a little bit of the housekeeping sort of rules, guys, to send your questions, we will have some limited time. Once the presentations, we're going to have three presentations and we're going to have some limited time for questions. So please, if you can send your questions via the Q&A box at the bottom, I would appreciate that, as that makes it much easier for us to, manage them. And
You're on mute, Belén.
how long have I been going on? Oh my God, this is the things with the direct. I'm so sorry. So I was just saying that we're recording this session and it will be sent to you afterwards. And also with the presentations, we're going to have three presentations followed by a limited time for Q&A. So please send your questions through the bottom, the Q&A box at the bottom, and we'll try to manage them as best we can at the very end. And please use the chat to introduce yourselves. This is a very, very international crowd, and a lot of the people here, for example, we have people from Spain, from Brazil, from El Salvador. There are people who would be interested, potentially they could be like contacts of yours, in the international markets. So make sure you introduce yourselves and everybody knows who is here, because I think this is part of the value of these webinars, to perhaps even increase the networking. And without further ado, I'd like to ask Markus, please, if you could take off your microphone just to make sure, and present your slides so that we can begin with H2 Global. And please keep them coming. Now, we'll have also people from the US, even our panelists. I'm based in Spain, Markus is in Germany, and then we have Antonio and Gordon in the US. So I think this is the international markets, markets where everyone has a say, and there is so many things going on. I can tell you, I work in Europe, I work in Latin America in hydrogen, I work in North America, and there's really a wealth of projects and, different like sort of like trading schemes going on. So Markus, are you ready? Yeah.
I'm
Can you
ready.
put it up on the slide for us?
Bilen, we have sent the
Yes.
slides to Maria, so I think
Would
she
you
should.
like us to put them for us? Okay, Maria,
That
can you
would be
put them
great.
on the screen for us? Okay, no problem. So let me just give us a second if you want to begin, and then I'll get Maria.
Let me start. So, like I mentioned before, I'm responsible for a project or for an instrument called H2 Global. This instrument is made to overcome this chicken and egg problem, why nobody is investing in hydrogen, in green hydrogen, in clean hydrogen, and even in clean and green hydrogen derivatives. We started 3 years ago developing the scheme. We introduced it to different governments. The governments making already use of H2 Global, they provided now $6 billion to H2 Global to run auctions on their behalf and to buy hydrogen and to sell it as well into the market. The first thing I would like to mention to you is that based on our experience, there is no market for clean hydrogen and clean hydrogen derivatives or for green. There is really a market what needs to be developed. I will just give you some figures. We are talking about 1,800 projects worldwide who reached already pre-FEED or FEED. Please jump to the first slide or to the next slide. And yeah, thank you very much. So what we are talking about, up to 1,400 new numbers are around 1,800 projects who reached already pre-FEED or FEED phase, who signed many MOUs or LOIs, but they haven't reached now a stadium of FID or financial close. Just 98 of them reached this particular point. Just a few of them are right now under construction. So we're not talking about an existing market. We are talking about a market what needs to be created. On the other side, we see a lot of, let's say, things what needs to be established in regards of different governments. The project ideas are there. The intentions are very high. We are talking about up to 590 gigawatt what needs to be built up within the next few years. But on the other side, we can see that only 1 gigawatt is in operation. Money is there. 100 billion euros is the amount of money provided by different governments from OECD countries plus China. On the other side, we need $4 trillion just for building up or for financing the construction of the power plants without any kind of infrastructure like whatever ports, storage, or even pipelines. On the other side, money is there. We can see that a lot of money, up to 100 trillion per year, are invested in different sectors, wherever they can find a business case, wherever they can find bankability. Please jump to the next slide. Thank you very much. And this is what a market needs. So all markets, you know the prices for the product. You can create liquidity if you have transparency, if you know how much, what is the price for a green or for a clean product. What you need as well is security. I think one of the things we want to discuss today during this webinar is as well everything what is related to regulation and standardization. So if you have no standards, if you have no regulation, if you have even not a description of the product itself, then it is really difficult to create a market. So you need to address all these, let's say, all these hurdles to create a market. And what you need as well is a lot of transparency. Please jump to the next slide. This is what we are doing. So really to overcome this chicken and egg problem and to make sure that these projects are getting bankable, that you have a secured offtake, that you can manage the risks and all the hurdles. This is what we are for. And this is exactly, that's what we are addressing with H2 Global. I will really rush through it just because of the time limit. Please go to the next slide. And this is now what we are doing. Next slide, please, with H2 Global. H2 Global is a very defined system. It is defined by size and defined by time. So what we are doing right now with money provided by the German government and by other governments is we are buying products from the global market, and we will sell these products into Germany, into the European, and into other markets. What we are doing is very much related to a CFD mechanism, but it is not a pure CFD mechanism. We have a so-called double auction system. I will explain it later. And we are defined by size and time. So we have a certain amount of money available, and we will realize these projects within a certain time period. Next slide, please. The way how we do that is we are simulating a market. So there is no market, I mentioned it already, and we are simulating the market to make sure that both lines can match, and then we have, let's say, a price or that both prices will match. Next slide, please. And what Hinicio is doing right now with the first round of auctions, we started a few months ago. We have finalized the first auction a few weeks ago. And this is what we are doing. So we are auctioning through our company, Hinicio, Hydrogen Intermediary Company. We are auctioning globally products. In the first round of auctions was green ammonia, green methanol, and eSAF. And we are providing a 10-year offtake guarantee with a fixed price. We are selling in the first round of auction these products time divergent into the European market. So that means we are buying for 10 years, we are selling just for 1 year. Hinicio is a German government-backed off-taker. So Hinicio can really act as a AAA investor, and whoever gets a strike from Hinicio, whoever sends the best bid, who gets the strike, can really bind his finance on these off-take guarantee provided by Hinicio. Next slide, please. This is our estimation. So what you can see on the line here on top, that's the 10-year off-take guarantee fixed and provided by Hinicio. And what you can see in the bottom, that's our estimation for the time. We expect that the willingness to pay a higher price for a green premium will increase within the next years. That's one of the reasons why we are establishing now for the first auction a 1-year offtake guarantee and an offtake period of 1 year. So every single year we will buy the amount available into the European market, and we take into consideration that we most probably will get every year a better price. That's one of the reasons why we are doing that like this. The second reason is we want to send out price signals into the market. H2 Global is established as a non-for-profit foundation, means we have to be transparent, and we are transparent. So we will send out the price signals from every single auction to make sure that we can really send out the price signals, that we can start helping creating transparency and liquidity into the market. Next slide, please. We are doing that in a so-called window logic. Next slide. This is what you can see here. The first auction was done for the German government, for the German Ministry for Economics, BMWK, with an amount of 0.9 billion euro. This is now, like I said, under finalization. The first auction, ammonia, is already finalized. The other auctions will follow within a short period of time. The next round of auction with an amount of 3.53 billion euro is now under final definition. So we most probably will start in the end of this year with that particular auction. In parallel, we are doing an auction for the Dutch and German government with an amount of 600 million euro. We are doing that as well for the Canadian and for the German government, for a so-called joint contribution window. I will explain later what that means. This is what we are doing in parallel right now. I mentioned already the amount of money available for H2 Global is around $6 billion right now. Next slide, please. This is the result of the first auction we finalized a few weeks ago. So the first producer will produce green ammonia for H2 Global in Egypt. The price for the production of these green ammonia is 811 euros per ton, including transport to the port of Rotterdam, including storage. It's 1,000 euro flat. We will receive around 400,000 tons, and the first delivery will be in 2027. This is the result of the first auction. Just, let's say, a few numbers. There are much more, but this is exactly what we are, what we are for. We are doing these auctions, and then later on we will send out the information about this auction into the market to create transparency as good as possible. Next slide, please. There is so many things I want to mention. That's the reason why I'm rushing through. So hopefully we'll have enough time for Q&A. This is the setup for the next round of auctions. So it will be diversified in different regions. So the 3.5 billion plus the 600 million will be used for most probably 7 to 8 auctions with an amount of 500 million euros each. We will diversify, so we will make these auction available now for different regions. Let's say 1 or 2 auctions for the Americas, 1 auction for Africa, at least 1 or 2 auctions for production only within Europe. This is done to diversify the imports to Germany and to Europe. This time it will be most probably not anymore a specified derivative. So we will ask for so-called vector open auctions. So that means we are just describing a green hydrogen molecule, what needs to be delivered to Europe. And then it is up to the producer to deliver it however they want. They can do it as an ammonia delivery, then it needs to be cracked. They can deliver it as LOHC, as ENG, whatever they want. So we want to have just a pure green hydrogen molecule. The size, I mentioned it already, is around 500 million euro per auction. The time is 10 years, and there are a lot of, let's say, specification and criteria set. This is something we will publish. We will do everything in a very transparent manner. Next slide, please. This is now our international cooperation. I mentioned already that with Canada and with Germany, we have the so-called Canadian-German hydrogen bridge. Production will take place in Canada, offtake will take place in Germany and in Europe. Let's say, one of a very, I would say, smart outcomes of H2 Global is following. Country like Canada wouldn't be allowed to subsidize their export industry because it would be always an unallowed export subsidy in regards of WTO. Like for other countries, all other countries in the world would, of course, would be the same. If we are using H2 Global for such kind of bilateral cooperation, where a country who wants to export and a country who wants to import join forces and cooperate closely with each other with the instrument of H2 Global, it is not anymore seen as an unallowed export subsidy because the money will be given to Hinicio. Then it is in line with WTO because it will be seen as an allowed import subsidy. So it means that you can use the instrument of H2 Global easily for bi or for trilateral cooperation. So what we did with Canada, it is now on its way with Australia and with the United Arab Emirates. We are, let's say, in the final stage now of negotiation. Then the production would take place as well in Australia and in the United Arab Emirates, and they would provide funds, 200 million euros each. Germany would do the same, and then we would have 3 of these so-called bilateral contribution windows. With Italy and with Austria, we are working on other streams, other projects. It is some kind of demand creation. With other member states of the European Commission, we are doing the same. With countries like Saudi Arabia, with Oman, with India, Chile and Colombia, we have as well a very close working cooperation. With Japan, we have already signed 4 cooperation agreements with the national importer JOGMEC, with the National Hydrogen Association JH2A, and with the Metropolitan Government of Tokyo. With Korea, we have a very close working relationship. So this is what we are doing now on an international scale. With the US government, we are cooperating as well very closely. We developed the second instrument beside the IRA for the US demand. So there are a lot of synergies. There are a lot of international cooperation in that particular regard. Next slide, please. The H2 Global setup, please jump 1 slide more. Thank you. This is what we are for. So that's the governance of H2 Global. H2 Global, I mentioned it already, is organized as a non-for-profit foundation. 71 companies are supporting H2 Global as funders with their endowments. Companies from all over the world, from Germany, from Europe, from the US, from Canada, from Australia, from Africa, and so on. We are as well supported by the Bezos Earth Fund and supported by different governments now. We are doing research and science projects in parallel. Hinicio, the intermediary, is a company 100% owned by the foundation. That's, let's say, the reason why it is so easy for governments to make use of H2 Global. We are independent, but on the other side, we are not belonging to anybody or to any company. We are really independent. But on the other side, we are owning the company or the Hinicio companies in that particular regard, and we can offer these auction as a service now to governments. This is the last slide, I guess. Yeah, that was the last slide. So that's what I would like to present today, and now I'm really looking for your questions.
Thank you very much, Markus. This has been really interesting. I had heard so much about H2 Global, but I just realized I knew the little bit of it. It was like the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg is what I had seen. So this has been really interesting. I do have about 1 million questions. We're not really going to have time for 1 million, but people in the audience, if you're going to send 1 or 2 questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom, and we'll try to get at the end to a couple of them. And yeah, I'll get in touch with you as well, because there is a lot of we can collaborate on. I hope so going forward. So
Pleasure.
next, Antonio, you are next. If you can please prepare your slides, make sure you take mute off, and we're going to hear a lot more about Korea and Japan, which are very unknown countries, but also countries that are decarbonizing very quickly, that are very industrial, and they don't have the ability, because they don't have territory, of really having that much renewables. So they do require like slightly different decarbonization procedures, which is why we're talking about hydrogen. Can you make sure to take the mute of your microphone? Let me just here see if I can help you. So otherwise we won't be able to hear you. It's at the top usually of the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes, perfect.
Great. You can see the screen and all.
Yes,
Great.
perfect. Go ahead.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for having me. Much appreciated. Markus, thanks for that presentation. It was really interesting information there. So my name is Antonio, again, manager with Hinicio, and just as an overview of Hinicio, what we do is we're an advisory firm helping out with business and strategy, project development assistance, investment advisory, policy and regulation. So as you're developing projects and you're wanting to learn more about the regulations and where you're going into, we can help and assist with this type of endeavors that we've helped clients around the world shipping their products, as they're looking into the European market, or as we'll talk a little bit about, getting to know more about what's coming out of the Asian markets as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about certification systems and schemes out there. There are a lot. So when you're thinking about where am I going to send my product, what do I need to get certified under? We've reviewed a bunch of different certification frameworks, and we kind of divided into the policies, regulations, certification schemes, and standards. And we think about policy and regulations. These are legally enforceable rules or directives made by an authority to specify what certificate constitutes acceptable hydrogen or ammonia. Certification schemes, they are outline of methods and procedures for scheme participants to verify that their hydrogen or ammonia product meets certain criteria required by a certification scheme. And then you have your standards and guidelines, where you have standards provide conceptual frameworks, definition of terms, and methodologies and requirements for products and services. And some of the things that we've seen as well is, looking at what's the difference between compliance versus voluntary. Compliance really focuses on meeting regulatory requirements, where voluntary is showcasing commitment to reduce environmental impact and increase transparency. Right, the aim of compliance is for legal compliance, the reduced risk of penalties, whereas the aim of voluntary disclosure is for enhanced brand reputation and investor confidence. So different uses for different schemes. So understanding which one is best for your product and your market, where you want to send it to your off-taker. Certification we look at is driven by demand, right? Because your off-taker wants to ensure that the product that they're getting is in line with what you're selling. Because when you look at a hydrogen molecule, green or blue, whatever color you want to give it, gray, they are going to look the same. That certification is what gives it that kind of stamp of approval that it is what it says it is. And moving next. And so this big landscape of certification systems, right, there's a lot of them. And right now we're looking to see that at COP28, there's this push for mutual recognition to kind of simplify the certification landscape a little bit, because there are different things that we're running into, discrepancies between different certification schemes. I think one thing is, we find that different standards and definitions for hydrogen and ammonia are emerging, with different approaches are going to continue to emerge as different jurisdictions and different industries have different needs. So there tends to be divergence there. Convergence, we could look at the methodologies being used to calculate the GHG emissions, and these types of items. You also look at accreditations required for third-party auditing, these to be aligned. And I apologize because I have my son who's here today, so I'll try to go through Japan, Korea. I got to get to him real quickly. And so now we're looking at Japan and Korea, thinking about the requirements are going to be as these markets are continuing to develop. So today, certification in Japan is not yet defined, whereas Korea, there's an expected pilot from 24 to 26. They are going to have different thresholds. A lot of the certification schemes we looked at there, they do have different thresholds for what is considered to be compliant or not compliant within the certification scheme. Some are also data driven. However, Japan and Korea, they will have different thresholds to comply with what they're needing there to send the product in. The scope, when we think about where you're measuring your greenhouse gases, it's well to gate for Japan, and Korea will look at a little bit more, but it could potential expansion into further beyond the well to gate. They do have different funding mechanisms, the contracts for difference in Japan, power auctions in Korea. Time horizons are equivalent, and H2 or the hydrogen quantity targets are, the different demand there for how much they're going to need over time. Okay, here we go. And so Japan's low carbon standard, overall technology agnostic, right? They're looking for certain emissions reductions from the conventional fuels of 70% as of today. MEDI is kind of setting the thresholds, where JOGMEC is putting together the guideline for GHG accounting. As I kind of ran through earlier, thinking about the standards that are going to be used, are they aligning with other certification schemes around the globe? How are they going to differ if they do? And so if you're developing a project and you're looking at, say you're in the US and you decide to ship to either Europe or Japan, or maybe even using the US. However, do you have to use two different GHG accounting methodologies to do, to send them? Or, if there's this mutual kind of agreement and mutual recognition, that could be closed a little bit in that sense. And so some of the things coming out of Japan with JOGMEC is looking at the greenhouse gas and carbon intensity accounting framework that should be available in the second half of the year here, formal guidance. And so the funding mechanism, right, it's a contract for difference scheme that's going to drive the clean fuels there in Japan. And essentially you have your, there's $19 billion worth of subsidies potentially here. And you have your strike price and your reference price, whereas your strike price is going to be determined according to the lowest bids at auction, most likely, and it can be variable or fixed value over time. And your reference price would be should be the parity price of the fossil fuel or feedstock to be substituted by hydrogen over the time there. And there are certain requirements as well. The carbon intensity must be compliant. Applicants must have a business plan as you're going in this for contract for difference. But one of the things here as well is the production capacity of at least 10,000 tons per year of hydrogen. So now we're moving into Korea. So Korea, same thing, in the power auction, the bidding price and GHG emissions will be considered in the evaluation criteria. And so there are some requirements as well in Korea. So we're looking at that first bullet: either possess a power generation business license or submit an application for such a license. So, you need to be a little bit established to take part in the Korea bidding auction. There is an evaluation criteria as well. It's a 60-40 split based on price and 40% on the non-price factors. And of course, they look at GHG reductions, the clean hydrogen grade, contribution to industry and economy. And they also grade it on point system as well, from grade 1 to 35 points, where you have your cleaner fuels, and then all the way down to grade 4, just 1 point. And over your timeline, this is all taking place rather fluid and continuing to move forward. And so they're looking for bidders to register in October and submit a bid by November 8th, 2024. And again, looking at that, contracts will be for 15 years for each facility. And just looking a little bit more at Korea's clean hydrogen certification system, we talk about these grades as well for tier levels. Looking at grade 1, you have the threshold 0.0 to 0.1, so linked with 100% renewable sources, up to grade 4, which is blue hydrogen, with a 90% capture rate. So there are requirements within each type of pathway that you'll be using. For carbon capture, it has to have at least 90% capture rate. As one of the key things there. An interesting piece with Korea as well is the ability to use RECs up to 10% to power if they meet specific criteria, including connection to the same grid and monthly matching. And the system boundary I found interesting is a well to gate, but over time, as it phases in, phase 1, 2, 3, as you can see on the right, there's a potential for it to expand beyond the well to gate from well to port, then finally well to wheel as well. And again, thinking about how the calculations are going to be put together. Are they using the ISO standards? Which ones is it going to be? Can you use it for both Korea, Japan, Europe? Are they going to be the same, different? Again, the idea of mutual recognition can really help to close the gap there a little bit more. So I know I maybe skip through a little bit faster there than anticipated and open to questions, but I think there's a lot to be said about the international markets as they continue to develop, as well as the certification schemes as they continue to go through as well. How can we again close gaps, kind of make it a more seamless process as you're trying to comply with different markets and increase mutual recognition as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonio, and thank you. I know that you have your child there and you have to pay attention to him. So, by all means, like go and then come back whenever you can. For me, I think it's amazing because this is a commodity that is not exactly a commodity. We're kind of like finding ways to really like give it different values, and these ways are exceedingly complex. I mean, the paperwork and the bureaucracy around this market are insane. And I'm hoping for over time, that the stringest possible standards are the ones that everyone goes for, and then you can sell in all the markets, because otherwise adapting to a specific market, in the short term, maybe a way to like get into a market that otherwise you wouldn't, but in the longer term, I don't know, if it will become too complicated as you can't sell, you just have it for one specific market. Anyway, this is a conversation for later. Gordon, is now your opportunity to talk. We're a little bit short on time, as you know. So if you can do it about 10 minutes or so, we'll do a couple of questions and then we'll call it a day. So go right ahead, please show us your presentation.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for having the opportunity here to speak about our project, what we have started a few years ago, and with the main intention. Do you see the right slide?
I see 2 slides there at the moment. It says 2 of 8. Okay.
That is not the right one.
Okay, now I see that one. Yeah, that's fine. I see the second one. On-site research and market analysis.
I will keep continuing this way.
Yeah. Yes, it's
so-
fine. We can see perfectly. Yeah, it's fine.
So, and our projects were identified a few years ago where we started to contract these locations based on a certain view and vision we had to produce a green hydrogen in the near future. And that based out of 100% renewable energies from on-site or co-located solar productions with battery buffering. And we identified in the US a few very valuable and viable project locations. They are co-located to existing industries as well as to co-located potential hydrogen off-takers and shipping ways. So in this particular area, we did an on-site research. We worked through with multiple sources, such as APRI, Landgate, RMI, where we searched into the market and made our analysis to make a business case that could potentially work locally for green hydrogen as well as internationally. And with these tools, we scanned and screened more than 30 projects in the US, and we identified the most valuable ones along the Mississippi River, where we have existing hydrogen off-takers and transportation ways, such as railroads and harbors. And with this existing infrastructure as well as power infrastructure to make the interconnection, for example, or natural gas pipelines on site, as well as the most important stuff, which are water sources on the properties, with water wells that we have identified on our locations and contracted. And with all these resources combined to make a circular economy business model that really supports in close proximity everything to make this work. And how it works in this particular area is that we are using solar energy in a buffering storage to produce hydrogen, and also to convert hydrogen into a hydrogen carrier such as ammonia. And like our speakers before mentioned multiple times, that there's a request for ammonia in the market, and that other countries are looking for 100% certified green ammonia. This is where we focused on the most because it's an existing infrastructure that and a traded commodity that is used since decades worldwide, predominantly for fertilizer and other chemical industries. But nevertheless, our solar projects with around about 4,000 megawatts combined with a buffering storage are aimed to produce and confirm and comply with all the requirements for 100% green energy. And this is directly possible because of the massive land that we have under contract, where to give you kind of an idea, round about 6,000 acres per site, or 24 square kilometers of an area, are aimed to build out the entire solar project with more than 10 wells on each location, water wells to produce sufficient green hydrogen on the locations to buffer it as a behind the meter production, so that we can absolutely guarantee from production of the green electron to convert it into the green molecule, and then have it stored or transported to anywhere in the world, either way as liquefied hydrogen or converted into anhydrous ammonia will ensure by a mass balance production and a certification process to really bring these 100% green commodities into the world market. So, and we have identified one of our or one of the most renowned companies in the world and one of the oldest that is converting hydrogen into ammonia. And that is ThyssenKrupp Uhde and Nucera as a one-stop shop for a complete production line where our renewable energy productions will be combined completely with a production facility so that everything is next to each other and that the certification process has no question where the electrons came from and what the molecules or where the molecules are produced, so that it's an absolutely transparent production line. So, and with that said, the hydrogen conversion into ammonia brings a lot of additional benefits, because you don't have to build out a new infrastructure, and the difficulties of transporting hydrogen as a very escaping molecule is really has its difficulties and its cost, but taking it and convert it into ammonia makes it way easier, and it brings a 100% use case of green hydrogen immediately in existing industries, such as fertilizer or other industries that are using massive amounts of ammonia or hydrogen in form of ammonia. So, and it makes it easier to transport and safer, because ammonia itself as a hydrogen carrier has a way different need of being compressed, for example. And with existing pipeline infrastructures, railroad use cases, trucking and vessel ships, you have already a good distribution way in place to make these green molecules movable and bring this into existence. So, and directly on our properties, we have identified the national and international transportation possibilities throughout the longest ammonia pipeline that exists in the US. And with that ammonia pipeline, it enables us to ship green hydrogen in form of green ammonia, very cost efficient from the production up north, all the way down to the port of New Orleans, where the port of New Orleans is one of the largest ports in the US and has a variety of shipping capabilities. So, as well as we can definitely support the maritime shipping industry with that green ammonia as a maritime bunker fuel. And along this pipeline, we have already identified more than 15 ammonia users. They are existing since decades, and such as fertilizer, chemical industries, and explosive industries, because they all need ammonia as a commodity. And with our online or on-site green certificates, we can really ensure that from the power sources and the conversion of the hydrogen into ammonia or in any other derivative of a hydrogen carrier, such as ammonia or SAF, for example, it can be absolutely guaranteed to be shipped. And With that said, the international or national shipping has a lot of potential, and specifically when it comes to the certification process, that it's used and produced by mass balance, such as by the Ammonia Energy Association or the TÜV or TÜV, where they have the capability to really identify from the source of production, by the mass balance production and shipping, that this certificate travels anywhere in the world to the end user and guarantees them the origin of these molecules, that they have been produced absolutely by renewable energies. So there's no question about 90 or 80% of the source. It's 100% renewable to 100% green molecules, and that travels with that certificate to the end user. And by doing this, our projects have identified that we will looking forward to produce at least 1.1 million metric tons per year. And our current development is in search for a off-taker or multiple off-taker, depends on where they are and what they are looking for. Close here the gap from demand somewhere overseas and the viable production in the US with massive amounts of renewable energies that are on site to provide these renewable molecules. And as part of, we are part of the Ammonia Energy Association, to really go through the process and having this organization on our side, and where we are in communication throughout the association with potential off-takers as well, that we can ensure our productions. And with that said, if there are any questions, I thank you for the opportunity to present our projects here from the US, and with the potential to ship it anywhere in the world, whether it's through the Mississippi River and its connections, as well as pipeline connections that are on site.
Thank you very much, Gordon. I mean, it's interesting to see how you guys have thought about this project, like sort of 360, about both the producers and the possible actually off-takers of this, and how kind of you're growing a market essentially for hydrogen, and to be able to move it also. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, our initial business case was for sure, how can we support an existing industry with renewable energy and renewable commodities. And this is the main reason why we identified our project location and contracted them massive users of hydrogen or ammonia, as well as why we were looking how do they get currently their commodities, and how could we integrate step by step our projects to become supplier, or locally or domestically, as well as international.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. You can take that off the screen if you like. And since we are a little bit short of time, we had agreed in advance that we would finish. How about I ask a couple of questions each, and then, we call it a day. And of course, to everyone in the audience, if you want to send your question, send it through now. Markus has had to leave us because he had a train to catch. But everyone has sent the questions. I also, the questions that you do have for Markus, I can pass them along, so that's no issue. Two questions for you first, Antonio, which I know you also have your kid there. So one is, what is the stringest standard there is right now? Because presumably if I adapt to the stringest possible standard, then I would be able to sell my hardware. So which is it? Because I always thought it was the European stuff, but I don't think so anymore. So just to understand.
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. And I think something to keep in mind here is so nothing can really be certified until there's something in place. So I would say at this time, I think you're correct. The RFMBO compliance requirements would probably be the most stringent. If you're going for green, right? If you're going for renewable hydrogen, they've just recently been working to get the low carbon gas package out, which will be more geared towards using fossil fuels to comply with their requirements. So they had a leak there, and they released a little bit of the methodology. So we'll see how that will compare. But depending on what product you want to develop, depending where you want to send it, that's always the question. And of course, you can't certify your low carbon gas package product for Europe because they haven't finalized it yet. So when it comes to certification, I would say the RFMBO is probably the most stringent right now. Yeah.
The RFABOs is the European.
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, just to make sure. Okay. There is so much bureaucracy that around this, it's kind of they're trying to they have a commodity that they're trying to decommoditize, so they're trying to give it different value. I appreciate it, but it sounds a little bit like you're blaming the victim almost, like why not just increase, CO2 or do it in a way that we're trading, great hydrogen, the one that has to go through all the bureaucracy, it just seems like it's only gonna add cost into the green hydrogen. I just wondered, since you've been working for so long in these markets and stuff, what is your opinion on this? And do you think we could do this a little easier?
I think there's always ways to make it easier. However, I think there are goals to really decarbonize, and they see this as the best path forward to really get stringent and then bring the cost down. I mean, more technology is implemented, efficiencies increase, costs come down. And so I think that's the
truth is, if you manage the cost to come down, if you manage for that to happen, then everyone is going to go on that stuff, right? Because it's better. But it just seems like you're charging it with more bureaucracy. I'm not really sure that's the way to make it cheaper, but it's one of those things anyway. So thank you very much, Antonio. If you'd like, I'd let you go. I just have a couple of questions for Gordon, and for everyone else, you will receive all the presentations. You will receive recordings, so you can also ask. Just get in touch with these guys if you have any questions. This is the way that you also meet other people. And Gordon, for you, one question that they asked you here, whether you're considering using floating solar in addition to land-based solar. A very specific question.
Well, at this specific location, there is the Mississippi River, but this is a major transportation way, and we cannot use there any kind of floating solar at all. And we have plenty of land available that really makes the use case.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I can see how floating solar in specific situations, a little bit like the offshore wind, but I can see what you're saying. Thank you very much. It was just a question that they sent through. What I'd like to know from you is the people in the audience, what opportunities do they have to get in touch with you? What could they be part of your project? How could they be part of your project? Sorry, I have an issue with that button. That is really important to see whether they're in the US or abroad. What are their opportunities to collaborate with you or participate in your project?
Yeah, we as developers for sure are always interested into collaboration with off-takers, number one, long-term owners, operators, as well as other partners. They can be suppliers such as identified ThyssenKrupp, for example, for a certain technology, and that is bankable, as well as the projects are currently growing, and we have identified other locations where we are in the same kind of project development, and where we want to accelerate these projects to give them the initial business case. And such as Markus explained before, currently there's no real business case for green ammonia, or for green hydrogen, but with the integration of green ammonia, that is possible to become an instant market. And as I contracted, for example, with Fertiglobe from Northern Africa there to supply stuff or these commodities into Europe. We have here the same kind of a business model. It's just a different location. And it has even an additional benefit because of existing infrastructures and potentially also business cases here in the US, whether there's a renewable energy demand or not. It all comes down in the end to pricing and long-term contracting of a source. And we could be a very viable source. We have currently identified sufficient or contracted under our properties for up to 2 million metric tons of green ammonia per year, which is around about a fifth of the value or volume of green hydrogen. But nevertheless, the green hydrogen can also be produced, buffered, and liquefied on site and made a use case anywhere else. It doesn't need to be necessarily the carrier as ammonia. So more than welcome anybody to get in touch with us to learn more about our projects and how we could collaborate, or if there are long-term owners and investors interested to become part of the projects. For us as a developer, that is always an additional business case we are looking into and make this all work for everybody in the world.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, Gordon. It's been great talking to you. Well, and everyone else, although Antonio and Marcus had to go. So the same thing like that I said before, the people in the audience, you guys will get the presentations. Feel free to get in touch with Gordon, with Marcus, Antonio, if you have any further questions, or if there is a way to collaborate. There is people from all over the world, so this is a way to start those like international juices flowing. Thank you very much, Gordon, and also for Marcus and Antonio that were here before. And we'll see you in the next webinar. But if you are in Chicago in the US, REMAR H2 USA, it happens the 9th and 10th of October, and we'll be delighted to see you there. More information in the link that we've sent, okay? And also you can send us an email if you'd like to ask anything. And we really, really hope to see you there. This is a really good opportunity for you guys to get to know each other and to get those creative juices flowing. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye.